Let's talk about why one Seattle Kraken beat writer is calling the press conference with Lane Lambert a, quote, measured introduction.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Seattle hockey fans, welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken, been your host since the very beginning. I'm also a contributor at CBS Sports at the moment. I've been a contributor at the New York Times, The Athletic, before they were the same, Forbes, Washington Post, and a few other places, including with the Seattle Kraken before they were officially the Seattle Kraken. On today's episode, we're going back to the Lane Lambert press conference, but through the eyes of one of the local reporters, specifically for the Seattle Times. I'm going to break down again and re-emphasize some of what we've been talking about in the last handful of days, but there's a particular thing in this article that we're going to go through that will lead us to talking about top 10 perhaps forwards in particular that are free agents or that the Seattle Kraken should maybe pursue. And, what that would look like, who would have to be moved. We'll talk about all of that on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. So the article that I'm referring to comes from the Seattle Times, and this is by Matt Calkins, entitled New Kraken Coach Lane Lambert Starts with a Measured Approach. Now, in reading the article, which I did a few times, this goes to something that I've been telling you for the last handful of days. We were not given any grandiose promises or plans. Everything that Lane Lambert said, it stood to reason, given what the Seattle Kraken were or have not been really for the last handful of seasons. That being said, was it specific? Was it inspiring? Maybe not. And I think that's okay. And I think that's what this article is also saying. It talks about, of course, that this is a new head coach in Lane Lambert that is coming into a difficult situation. Now, it also talks about how Lane Lambert, though he's been around the NHL, and again, as I have talked to you about in the last handful of episodes, is like a proven winner, right? That's the catchphrase that we're hearing, why he is the choice for the Seattle Kraken. You cannot deny that as far as a head coach and being able to be a winner as a head coach, that's unproven. It's yet to be written for Lane Lambert. Will the Seattle Kraken end up being where he can do that? Perhaps. This is what the Seattle Times wrote. New Kraken coach Lane Lambert is hardly NHL royalty, but as one Pete Carroll can tell you, legendary status can still be achieved after a failed stint or two. I don't know necessarily where you, my listener or viewer, hey, YouTube viewers, where you stand or how you feel about Pete Carroll. I think, obviously mixed emotions could be understandable. And I think some of the legacy that has been cemented also completely, understandable and earned. So could that be what we're getting from Lane? We don't really know. And again, as this article goes on to say, as I have told you, everydayers who make us your first listen of the day, you're part of your daily destination, my OGers, I keep talking about the success or failure of the Seattle Kraken, in my estimation, will not exclusively be because of Lane Lambert, for better or worse, and not even completely because of Jason Botterill, for better or worse. I told you, I used my baseball analogy. Ron Francis has left some batters on base as a pitcher. I mean, I guess you could use it for RBI, but I feel like it's a little bit more on point if I'm talking about Ron Francis as the pitcher. Also, the pitcher is probably closer to the GM with regard to how they can impact the game, literally pitch by pitch. Okay, now I'm nerding out a little. Let me get back. My point is, this team and its capabilities, at least as of today, its capabilities to be closer or the foundational roster to an eventual perennial playoff team rest on the shoulders of what was done by the GM that preceded Jason Botterill, who is now our president. That is Ron Francis. If you listen to this show often enough, especially if you listen every day, you know that I have been teasing this. I have been hopefully respectful, but also firm in that we need to look at this front office, that being the Ron Francis front office. I still believe that. And, that's what my fellow colleague is saying here as well. Goes on to say that it's tough to think that Lambert is going to unveil too many strategic details in a new conference, or that he, effectively is going to have some kind of a magic wand here. I'm paraphrasing here. But he also talks about that Botterill. This is a direct quote. It's Botterill who has to find a way to inject some scoring into a team that finished 16th in goals per game last season. It's Botterill who has to strengthen a defense that finished 24th in the NHL in goals allowed last season. Emphasis on it's Botterill, as in Jason Botterill, as in the general manager, as in not Lane Lambert. However, I will continue to tell you, the way this organization is moving, if things go south, it's Botterill and maybe also Lane Lambert that could be on the chopping block, because we've already seen that the guy who left the runners on base as a pitcher has gotten promoted. I don't love it. So, Matt goes on to talk about balance. We kept hearing about balance. So, what is this general manager, Botterill, going to do to ensure that this is the right balance? I thought this was really interesting. I'm going to read this directly. The word balance, in quotes, came up more than a couple of times during Monday's news conference. But the next season isn't about balancing, quotes, mediocre but the next season isn't about balancing mediocre and inadequate. It's about bolstering every aspect of the roster. Bars, Matt. Come on. Come with the heat. This is what I've been talking to you about for weeks now. For weeks, I've been saying this. We have to be aggressive, which is the little title of the next segment. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's take a look at why the Seattle Kraken need to look at top free agents and who they might consider. We've already talked about Mitch Marner. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about him again. And are there other pieces, other elements for a team like the Seattle Kraken that need to be aggressive, aggressive this offseason? We'll talk about that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken, once again brought to you by our friends at Wonderful Pistachio. If you are looking for a snack that is delicious and nutritious, you can crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Now, some people like the Zen approach of being able to crack open a pistachio shell, discard those, or kind of pile them up and just crack into, again, 6 grams of protein for every ounce. Uh, and some people just like the grab and go. You don't want to get pistachio shells all over your car or your gym bag or, on your podcast station, battle station, maybe talking about myself there. Either way, Wonderful Pistachios has something for you. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. I want to thank you for making Locked On Kraken your first listen of the day, part of your daily destination. My everydayers, thank you so much. My commenters on YouTube, I appreciate you. I love being able to see your comments. Shout outs to the New York Metropolitans as well as the Seattle Metropolitans. I mean, we have a fun time in the comments. So if you're not already, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Kraken and hit the notification bell so you know when new episodes are uploaded. Be aggressive. This is a Seattle Kraken team, as we have read in some of our YouTube comments and we've talked about on the show, has about $2 million in cap space. Now, they also have some draft picks that they can leverage because of some of the trades that Ron Francis and his team made at the end of the season, most notably for Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde, who goes back to Tampa. And I believe, right, maybe a couple of weeks ago already, a week and a half, something like that, signed a nice contract there. But you got to get aggressive. I've been wanting this for years. Literally years. I've already told you I'm your first and only host of the Locked On Kraken podcast, and I've been wanting to be aggressive for the last 3. That's probably conservative. The last 3 off seasons. Yes, literally every year. I almost beg for the Kraken to make a splash. I talk about the 7-7 guys. That's also a little nod to Saturday Night Fever, because there's a drink that used to be popular called a 7-7. Anyway, some of you may know that, some of you may not. It's fine. No, 7-Up is not, it doesn't have the cachet that it once had. Anyway, I digress. Former bartender here, maybe future bartender. You never know. It's a good skill to have. Just saying. My point is, our 2 7-7s, 7 million, 7 years, 7 million AAV over 7 years. Montour, sure. We talked about Locked On Fantasy Hockey and Montour's. If you're gonna pick someone from the Kraken, it's gonna be Montour for your fantasy team per flip and steal, and I can't really argue there. Stevenson, tough out of the gate. Seemed a little better on the other side of Four Nations / the trades, whatever you want to say. Last 20 games of the season. I don't know. He seems like a soft-spoken guy. Maybe he just wasn't comfortable for whatever reason, hoping that's not the case this year. But you got to be aggressive. We've talked about Mitch Marner. I want to take you to an article by The Athletic staff, 10 NHL teams that could be aggressive buyers this offseason. And I was like, the Seattle Kraken better be on this list. They absolutely need to be on this list, which is interesting. Did I say 2 million earlier? That's not accurate. 20 million. I knew there was a 2 in there. I just forgot a 0. Sorry about that. 20 million in cap space. 16 players signed. Notable restricted free agents, Capo Caco and Riker Evans. A notable UFA, Michael Easyman, who we got in that trade with Tampa Bay. Now, here's the quote. This is, let's see. Oh, they don't give the specific contributor. At first, the Kraken didn't stand out as a team that should belong on this list. Got to disagree with you there. I saw this list on The Athletic, and I was like, the Seattle Kraken better be on this dang list. They better be on this list. They boast ample cap flexibility and trade chips, but they've been stuck in mediocrity. Ooh, that's painful and accurate. Stuck in mediocrity for a while, and their decision to ship out Oliver Bjorkstrand for a haul at the trade deadline suggested they might be entering a retool rather than a win now mode. Well, I guess we know who hasn't read this. Todd Leiweke does not believe we're in a rebuild, retool. Sam Holloway keeps saying as soon as possible, as Striatic and other people have mentioned. Maybe I'm taking as soon as possible too literally. But if you don't literally mean as soon as possible, maybe don't say as soon as possible. Maybe say something like sooner rather than later. It's the same, but for me, I don't know. That seems better. Within the next 3 years, don't say 5 because we're already on the back end of a 5-year plan, right? Within the next couple of years, a little more specific, but also warmly vague as well. But as soon as possible, we're not in a rebuild? What? Okay. All right. I'm coming off the soapbox. However, GM Jason Botterill has told reporters that the Kraken are, quote, going to be aggressive again. Okay. Be aggressive again in free agency. Again is in the quote, so I had to say it. Again? Question mark? Again? Okay. Here's my question of the day. Do you feel that the Seattle Kraken have ever been aggressive in free agency? I mean, you know my answer, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm always open to the fact that I'm wrong. So let me know. Are those 7-7? Is that aggressive to you? Comparative, I guess, you have to compare it to Seattle itself. Maybe. Honestly, I think it was just catching up. I don't know that that's aggressive. I think that's, using whiteout on your homework assignment. But you let me know. Again? Going to be aggressive again? Going to be aggressive again in free agency? When? When have we ever? I don't know. The Kraken own an extra first round picks in next year, 26 and 27 as a result of the Bjorkstrand trade, as I just mentioned, and extra second round picks. President of Hockey Operations, Ron Francis, has stated that Seattle will consider using some of that currency as trade capital. He's thinking about it. Are we as soon as possible, or are we retooling? Are we not in a rebuild, or are we in a rebuild? Are we going to be aggressive, or are we going to consider? Are we going to develop talent and give our young stars playing time, ice time, or do we need to find a top specific forward? The last two are probably yes, as in both and that's what we're hearing. That's where balance, right? Air quotes, balance. That's where balance is coming from. I continue to say it. I am not sure that the organization is all on the same page with what the actual timeline is. And so this is something where I'm going to be bullish when I get opportunities to talk to the front office staff, to the head coach, because I want to know what they know. Because right now, I just don't know. I'm hearing a lot of things. We're going to be aggressive again implies that you were once before. We're not retooling, but it's going to take more than one thing. As soon as possible, but we have to be patient. I didn't mean to rant in the second stanza, but here we are. Assuming we're going to be aggressive again, I'll just go with the language. Even though it's like I'm like having trouble saying it again. Assuming we're going to be aggressive. I said it silently in my head, but I'm not saying it again on the podcast. Assuming we want to be aggressive, who are some of the top free agents? Who should we be targeting? And I think this might also, it should always, but it's not just best available, perhaps. We might also, or might have to consider fit. When you do a draft, most people will tell you grab best available regardless. That's assuming, though, that there's going to be a development process. When you're in free agency, it's all about getting results right off the hop. So, who are some of the best suited players for the Seattle Kraken? We'll talk about that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Again, it's I'm thrown. I'm so thrown by again. Again is just okay. Oh, sure, Jan. Again, well, let's do it again. Oh man. I gotta let it go. I'm gonna calm down. Probably. I'll consider calming down. Okay. I will show you this list, and then we'll go over some folks. The Athletic, they love a list. And they have listed top free agents going into the 25-26 season. We've already talked about number one. I've already mentioned him on the podcast. We've broken down if Mitch Marner would be a good fit. A lot of you are thinking not so much for Mitch Marner, which is understandable to an extent, I think. Mitch Marner, Sam Bennett, John Tavares. Speaking of Saturday Night Fever, Tavares has a great song on that album, which the Bee Gees also redid, but I like the Tavares version. Either way, Nikolaj Ehlers, right? I feel like I might be pronouncing that wrong. I apologize. So this is the list. Mitch Marner, as I've mentioned at the top of the list. Sam Bennett. I'm just going to focus on forwards. So Marner, Bennett, Tavares, Ehlers. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Ehlers. Again, just forwards for now. Marchand, Bozer, Nelson, Duchesne. There's a goalie on there. Oh, Ryan Donato. Love seeing Ryan Donato on there. Granlund, Suter. And, the list goes on. Patrick Kane is there. Jonathan Taves and Giroux to close out the forward group in the top 20. Other players on here, but I'm going to talk about the top really 15-ish, top 13. So then I can end at Donato. But why am I focused only on those? It's because if we go back to Matt's article I already closed it out, so I'm going to have to paraphrase here. But he talks about if we're getting aggressive again, if we have to get otra vez, maybe if I say it in Spanish, it'll feel better. No, it didn't. If we want to get aggressive, getting a top forward is we need scoring, right? We need scoring. I will rest my hat, so to speak, on the fact that our defenders aren't the problem. Our team defense is. Our good friend Mike Benton was able to speak one-on-one with Lane Lambert the other day. He talked about wanting to support all three zones. That's the ask. A 5-man mentality. Talked about coaching to the roster and that there are ways to win every game, regardless of injuries, fatigue, etc. Talked about responsibility and trust. It's a good listen. So, yes, I think that Lane at least is using language which suggests that he's willing to work with the roster as is, right? The balance. And we need to shake it up. So, of these players that I mentioned, let's go down the list. Mitch Marner, a winger on the right side. So I'm going off of the last handful of games. We saw Capo Caco, Jordan Eberle, Andre Burakovsky, and Mikey Esimon play on the right side, on the right wing for the Seattle Kraken. Among those players, Berkey and Esimon stand out. And honestly, as far as maybe someone to move or via trade, maybe, again, Esimon is a UFA, unrestricted free agent. If we want to go with Mitch Marner, who's number one on this list, or Brock Boser, then yeah, Isimon's probably the odd guy out. But I'll tell you what, I'd be fine to part ways with Andre Burakovsky. Now, Lane Lambert, knowing a little bit, having some overlap with Berkey, does that make a difference? I guess we'll find out. Here's what the Athletic said about the Seattle Kraken and the Mitch Marner sweepstakes. Oh, I'm not going to put this on the screen. I'll read it to you. This is again over at the Athletic. Mitch Marner sweepstakes. The Seattle Kraken, they should do everything they can. There is one no question bona fide elite talent in unrestricted free agency, and the Kraken don't have that caliber of player. They have a lot of other interesting players. The word interesting sent me here. That talks about speed at center. We'll talk about centers in a minute. Interesting two-way wingers, legitimate good deep blue line, solid young starter. Add in Marner, the Kraken could have a stew. That's what Thomas Drance from The Athletic has said. Again, I didn't pull the comments for today, but a lot of you on YouTube were kind of meh about Mitch Marner. I think I agree here. They should do everything they can. They should do everything they can. Because, as Thomas says, we don't have this caliber of player, and he's the top free agent. We need some of that. But let's assume you don't want Mitch Marner. I don't know why. Because, Kako, you could maybe say Kako is an RFA. Ebbs is our captain. I'm keeping Eberle. I know a lot of y'all don't agree. I called that he was going to be captain. I demanded it, matter of fact. And I'm with Ebbs. I'm just going to tell you. I'm with Ebbs till the wheels fall off. I'm with Ebbs. There was a comment, and I should have probably pulled this one. I didn't. So I'll have to paraphrase, and I apologize because I don't remember who wrote it, who typed it. I'm saying that, it was a comment regarding that maybe it wasn't the defense that was bad. It was, or goaltending. It was, I think, the Philip Grubauer episode, but it was more about changing of the lines. I can get with that. just the lines were in a blender. We know why some of that was, including the Eberle injury. I don't like how it negatively impacted McCann, and I think that it was necessary. I haven't always liked moving the lines in the past. I also haven't always liked the insistence to not move the lines when clearly they weren't working. Was it an overcorrection under Dan Bylsma? Maybe. But I didn't agree that Capo and Beniers were a bad mix, which was a part of the comment. It was a long comment, and I loved it. I did. And I apologize because I don't have your name. I wasn't planning to talk about that, but I like Beniers and Kako. I think Kako started to get his confidence back, and I liked him with Schwartz and Beniers. But, that's just me. All right, Brock Boeser. What would a team, he's number 7 on this list. Previous contract, 3 years, 6.65 AAV, 50 points, 25 goals, has scored at a 30 goal per 82 game pace across his NHL career. Sign me up. I don't know that I need to read more. Pure sniper, dangerous release, injuries. Okay. All right. Injuries and inconsistency have plagued him at times. That's the demerit here. We have those guys on the roster, but what we don't have is a 30 goal per 82 pace. Getting a fresh start after a difficult final season in Vancouver could put some wind in his sails. 28-year-old right winger. Let me know what you think. There are in the top 13, including my guy Donato. Oh, I love him. I miss him. I want nothing but good things for him. Including Donato, there are 5 centermen in the top 15 of this of this list by the Athletic. Sam Bennett, John Tavares, or Tavares, the man, not the band. Brock Nelson, Duchesne, and Donato. Here's my thing. If you can get a top 5 on this list and they happen to be a centerman, I think I'm okay with that. Like Sam Bennett. I think I'm okay with that. That does leave something that a lot of you don't want to hear. If you take a centerman, and I don't think the Kraken will, but I think they should be open to it. If you take a centerman, Wright becomes your 4th liner. It just unless he can make a massive jump and then you put Stevie there for a lot of money. Men on base. That's all I got to say about that. I won't let it go. I don't think it's likely that they're shopping for centers, but maybe they should. Maybe they should. Maybe they should. 25 goals, 51 points. On the younger end of this free agent class, 28. We just talked about one of those. Centerman shoots left. One NHL exec calls him a dog on a bone. Is that my sandpaper? Is that my moxie that I want? Will be more in demand because he's viewed as a player that could tip the scales for a team in the playoffs. I mean, we see that. Significant piece of leverage to bring to a market. Seeing him compete in a 3rd straight Stanley Cup final this spring will only boost his value. We're on the conservative track, so I don't know if that's going to happen, and I genuinely don't think we're going to take a centerman. So let's head over to the left. In case it wasn't clear, Beniers, Stevie, Wright, and Hayden, at least again in the last handful of games. Matty Beniers, Chandler Stevenson, Shane Wright, John Hayden. We re-upped. On the left, Jaden Schwartz, do not even think about it. Jaden Schwartz, not yet. There will come a time. That time is not now, in my opinion. Ellie Tolvanen, Jared McCann, and Ty Cartier. On this list, I think there's one obvious choice. It's Cartier. Yes, he's a young talent, but if you can get Ehlers or Brandon Marchand, oh gosh. Listen, I respect what the man can do from a pure hockey perspective on the ice, but I just find him so freaking weird. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm just going to stick to the facts on this one. 23 goals, 51 points. Arguably, no free agent has done more to burnish his resume during these playoffs than Marchand, who has managed to excel for the Panthers after a prolonged late season injury absence and the first trade of his career. High motor, high character player, Stanley Cup pedigree, Team Canada bona fide. Injuries have been a problem. Hasn't earned as much as peers of his quality throughout his career, so he's not expected to come at a discount. Offensive rating, net rating plus 7.3, a -1 defensive rating, not the end of the world. I would prefer not. So, Ehlers, Nikolaj, number 4 on the list. 24 goals, 63 points, an automatic 20-plus goal player for a decade, consistently drives play for teammates. Yup, love it. We had people eking to the end of the season to try and get 20 goals. I was rooting for him, but it was painful. Ehlers can both start plays and finish them. Hello, like that. Power play threat. Yep. Produced points at the best rate of his NHL career this season. While he'd be a useful top 6 addition for basically every other team in the league, might be some durability concerns over the long haul. He had some injuries. I was listening to a Jets podcast that maybe that also impacted what we were seeing. 9th most minutes 5-on-5 in the regular season for the Jets. 9th most minutes in the playoffs for the Jets. Short shifts, but he's a plus 8.2 offensively, plus 0.07 defensively. 7 years, $6 million AAV. Contract projection, 6 years, 8.1 and change is the projection here. Let me know. What do you think? I mean, I didn't talk about Donato. He is 13 on the list. I personally would love to see him come back to Seattle, and that absolutely cannot be the only thing that the Seattle Kraken do. So at least for now, I'm going to ignore that Ryan Donato is on this list, but I reserve the right to come back to it. You know I love my Donnie boy, P&V personified. You know what? I lied. We're going to do it. I'm probably over time for today. I do not care. You want a team, Lane Lambert, that is going to attack the net? Who has done it better than Ryan Donato for this Seattle Kraken organization? Bring him back. Bring him home. Make it his forever home. I'm still on that. Let's see what they say about Ryan Donato. 3-year contract, 4.2. 31 goals, 62 points, relentless, high-energy player, exploded for a career season in Chicago at the perfect time. Yeah, right after we let go of him. Made some strides with his skating and has hands necessary to bury offensive chances when he gets them. This man is opportunistic. There have already been some discussions about a potential extension. If they're smart, that's what Chicago will do. In fairness, with Ehlers sounds like he really wants to stay in Winnipeg. So, but this is the list. I think we're going with a winger. I don't know that it makes a lot of sense or that this organization is ready to potentially put Shane Wright as a fourth liner. Some people were so upset about that. I wasn't. As much as I love Shane's trajectory, I think it's fair to say the way the Kraken were playing, yeah, maybe you're curious why you don't get Shane more minutes. I can see that for sure. But if you make a move to bring in one of these top 10 guys and they happen to be a center, Shane's going to be a fourth liner. He will. And that makes sense. Will he get stuck there? Depends on how the organization moves ahead. Unless you put Stevie down, which I think makes sense. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying, all right, that's our show. I went deep on a lot of different things. A reminder to be kind to yourself. I had a little wellness. I had some self-care appointments earlier today. It was fabulous. I loved it. Be kind to yourselves. Hopefully that opens you up to be kind to others. Let's hold fast. Let's stay true. And let's figure out what the hell this team is going to do in the offseason again. Let's again wait and see how the Seattle Kraken will respond. Until the next episode, again, be kind, and I'll catch you soon. Peace out, everybody.